Walk with me. So just coming off a really eye-opening, super insightful event. Was out in Texas, Frisco to be specific, for a few days for the annual industry event, the event that pulls together really all of the influencers, impactors, who's who, thought leaders in the entire direct selling space around the world, put together by Direct Selling News, kind of the industry voice, and was out there for 3 days. Pleasure to be invited to the CEO Summit. Brian and I sat in a room with about 60 individuals, all founders, CEOs, presidents, C-suite execs of some of the largest community-based marketing direct sellers in the world. Matter of fact, there were about 60 of us in the room, represented over 35 billion with a B in annual revenues. To give you an idea of impact, I couldn't even imagine to even attempt to tally the communities behind those numbers. I would be well into the tens of millions of people, maybe even more. And always inspiring, kind of talking about what we're going through as leaders, as communities, as brands, what's working, right? What's not, the shifts through pandemic, what's coming next. Always inspiring. And then the Global 100 Awards, where all of the companies are recognized across the world for achievements for 2022 on a professional level. Super proud. Got to brag for a minute and just give a shout out to all of the Prove It community worldwide, recognized as number 21 in the entire world last year with our 598 million in revenue for 2022, which, just for context, 21 in the world where there's thousands of companies, and you look at the list of people in, you know, even the top 50, you got companies that have been around a lot longer than us, and just over 6 years to be in a very short list, with most of our peer group being in business for decades. Just a proud moment, and I know we're just getting started, and it was cool to get a bunch of other kind of acknowledgements, some growth awards, and really proud of the shifts we're making in industry toward serving the consumer, serving the end customer. We were one of the very, very, very members of the short list, very short list of communities that have over a 10-to-1 customer to promoter ratio, and I know our numbers are way beyond that. Was cool to see. So congratulations, little brag moment for the community, a little proud moment on a professional level, and a lot of, I don't know, I'd say maybe a roller coaster of emotions on a personal level. I'll explain that in a minute with y'all, transparently, and obviously some insights that came from it. And the event, 2 days at the Direct Selling University, it's just all around really trends, right? Trends, what we're seeing, tools, technologies, innovations, different circumstances that we're all facing, having to overcome, and just an awesome lineup of amazing individuals. And a lot of it's very strategic, very tactical, maybe very knowledge-based. And it was great to have an individual up closing the event, and someone that I've known for a long time and has had a lot of success in the industry, and takes a totally different approach than the entire event. It was definitely much more of a, let's connect where we are on a mindset, as people, as leaders. How you doing? And it definitely was a different approach than the rest of the content, but I thought it was a perfect way to conclude. And he said something at the very end that kind of resonated with me. And it's a quote I think he borrowed, because I think I've heard it in similar context before. And he said, something like, and it's kind of like coach voice, like piss and vinegar voice, like charge the hill type voice. And he said, look, we got to realize, for all of us in the room, success is never final. Failure is never fatal. And in the end, it's the courage to continue that matters most. And I love that. And it really got me thinking about how everything, when I say everything, I'm being literal. Everything in our life is a season, isn't it? At the end of the day, everyone, everything that comes into our life is there for a season. And I think my personal perspective is that I think real success in life, not success in business, I'm not talking success to make the global 100 list or a certain amount of revenue, but I'm talking transcending success in the bank account or success in the company. I'm talking about success in life. At the end of the day, shouldn't that be our goal? I think is learning the ability to go from season to season without ever losing our enthusiasm and our fulfillment. And I want to talk about that for a minute. What not just the event, but really those two thoughts at the end and how it applies to us as entrepreneurs, and not just those running companies, but I know we're in an age of, micro enterprise. We're in a time of, micro entrepreneurship. And I know there's so many of you that are that now, right? We're in this paradigm shift of freedom is no longer defined as, what it once was. We're chasing a new definition of freedom of our calendar on a day-to-day, freedom of our emotions, right? Freedom to be able to pursue purpose. And micro enterprise, micro entrepreneurship is exploding, which is awesome to see. And I think the lessons apply to every one of us that are running big brands or big communities, micro entrepreneurs pursuing freedom on a personal level, or those ready to and looking to make that shift. Sit down on the rock. Before we get into it, hey, who's out there? Say hello below, drop a comment below. I read every one of them. Say hi, where are you from? And I'll give you a view here if you take a second and drop from the top. All right, you got Santa Monica, Malibu down there. Sun is shining, beautiful day. And I ask if at any point in this conversation you do get value from it, feel free to share, right? Share with your peer group, share with someone below. And let's talk about that concept, right? Success is never final. Failure is never fatal. And in the end, it's the courage to continue that counts. And I mentioned that it was kind of a roller coaster of personal emotions. And the reason is this event, it's an interesting mile marker if I look at my coming up on 23 years in the industry, because it is something that is run annually. It's something that always gets limelight across the industry. So it's something that's been a staple, a consistent marker throughout my career in this space. And obviously the first quite a few years wasn't even on the radar to earn an invitation to be in these rooms. But I remember watching the industry, learning from the industry, watching the list, aspiring to one day be a part of, brands that are mentioned, and a student learning, right, what they were doing, to being the individual that earned the invitation and would show up, right, sitting in the back of the room, coming home with journals and journals of notes and debriefing with the team and extracting what we can learn and what we need to do, to going through a phase where we started getting recognized as brands on the list, climbing the list. And it was interesting because this was actually the 10 years ago, this event. I remember flying in and, my company was one of the companies that was featured on most of the recognition lists and gross lists. And I was actually one of the featured keynote speakers of the event, right, 10 years ago, explaining what was working and what was doing, to a period of time where we dropped off the list, to a period of time where, I was sitting in the back of the room, back in student mode. And here we are again with the Prove It community, back recognized as number 21 in the world, celebrated. And it's just interesting. I share that because on a personal level, when I say that success is never final, failure is never fatal, and in the end, it's the courage to continue, I've lived that. And looking around the room, one of the things that hit me hard is I noticed so many people that have been there through the years that have done the same, that have lived that. People that at times have been on, championship teams, have had amazing seasons, have come together and gone home with the trophy, and then continued to play the game and had teams and had seasons where, they didn't make the playoffs, right? They didn't win. They didn't make the lists, but they continue to play and continue to have the courage to show up. And I noticed that the trend of the people leading some of the biggest brands in the world, mobilizing some of the biggest communities, making some of the biggest impact, are the people that have had the ability, the courage to continue through both the highs and the lows, the peaks and the valleys, realizing that success, right, is never final. It's always a season, right? But also the same thing, when you go through the dips, failure is never fatal, except I'll add a little asterisk, I'll add a little second line, because I also realize that there's a lot of people that weren't in the room this past weekend. There's a lot of people in relationships, people that I respect, people that I've learned from, people that I've watched and studied throughout the years, that they weren't in the room this past week at the event. And maybe they're in a period or a season where they're down, they're going through some of the struggles and some of the challenges. And I hope they're just taking a step out and they'll be back, right? They'll be back in the future with the courage to continue. But I also know that there's a lot of people that'll never be back. They'll never be back. Because failure is never fatal as long as you have the courage to continue. But failure is fatal the minute that you stop, the minute that you quit, the minute that you throw in the towel, the minute that you give up, the minute that you say, I'm just going to continue to lie down. And it's these events that always remind me that, the up and down, the peak, the valley, the success, the failure, you know what that's called? That's called normal. It's called normal. It's called normal in business. It's called normal in life. And that's why that last point, that last saying, is what's so important. In the end, it's the courage to continue that matters most. That matters most. And when I say that it reminds me that everything's a season, it's because everything in our life is a season. Now, full stop, you got to take this in, because somehow we got wired, and I know this isn't just me, that we think things last forever. For some reason, we think that we get into an amazing friendship, that friendship's going to last forever. We get into an amazing relationship. We think that relationship's going to last forever. We get into an amazing business. We think the business is going to last forever. We get into an amazing idea, right, that becomes a success. We think the success is going to last forever. We get stuck in these modes where, yeah, it's great to be an optimist. It's awesome to focus on positive. I'm all for 100 of that. But somehow we forget that at the end of the day, nothing lasts forever. Nothing. Every relationship we have, every person we know will eventually come to an end, 100% of them. And you guys, that's true for everything we do and everything we're a part of. And that's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing if we understand that everything is a season. Everything is a season. And when we start to realize that everything is a season, and you start to go through a few of the cycles of those seasons, you start to realize that, yeah, success is never final. And that's an amazing thing if you realize that, because I'll tell you this, the way I felt this past weekend, being back on number 21, the pride, the feeling, the appreciation is at such a greater level than it even was the first time I was ever on that stage or made that list. And that's because you got the privilege of hindsight, the privilege of perspective. You see, if you're just on the top and you never go through the struggle, you don't learn to value or to appreciate. It takes the experience of going season to season in order to build the gratitude and the appreciation, to enjoy it when you go back through it again. So realizing that success is never final allows you to appreciate and have gratitude and truly stop and honor a present moment that you're in for everything that's happening, because you don't know how long it's going to last. You don't know if this season is a minute or a moment, right? Is this a week or a month? Is this a year? Are you halfway through or 2/3 through or a quarter through? You don't know. You never know. And the fact that you never know means you appreciate the season that you're in right now. You guys, that's true for success, but what's awesome is that's also true when you're in the struggle. It's also true. Failure is never fatal. If you're in a time of struggle, if you're in a time of right now, you're in the fight, right? And it seems like it's never going to end. You got to remind yourself that failure is never fatal. Everything is a season. And if you keep going, there's going to be another side. There's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. There's going to be, right, a turn. There's going to be a shift 100% of the time, as long as you have the courage to continue, right? The willingness to continue to fight. And it's in the struggle, it's in the failure to failure that you build the muscle, that you build the perspective, that you build the experience, that you build the wisdom. It's in the courage to continue that all that happens, that allows you to get back to, right, another season of victory, another season of success, and a season of winning. And I'll tell you, it's again, a personal just insight that it's the ability to go from season to season without losing our enthusiasm, right? With building our excitement, with building our fulfillment. That only comes with the experience of going through it all, with the experience of having the courage to continue through it all, with the experience of going through all of the seasons. That's how you get the experience, to have the appreciation, to have the wisdom, to make the shifts that you need to make. You know, and it's just interesting because I watch a lot of the up and coming entrepreneurs and a lot of the new names and the new brands, and it's interesting because the experience gives you a little bit of hindsight. The gray hair does give a little bit of wisdom, and the shift is, hey, if you're in a phase where you're pursuing success, isn't the right word, but you're pursuing money or power, fame or influence as an end, you're never going to find that fulfillment piece from season to season. Now, don't get me wrong, all of those are means. They can open doors. You know, they're tactics and strategy to build a platform, to maybe elevate a voice. But if the end that is your goal, you're never going to find what you need to have the courage to continue when you go through the downfall. But if in the end you're able to go through that and realize that there is a greater end that encompasses faith, a greater end that encompasses family, a greater end, you know, that encompasses, you know, doing work that is of service to others. When you realize that at the end of the day, that's the game, it helps you go from peak to valley, from success to failure and back to success, and make the shift that at the end of the day, all of those wounds and all of that experience allows you to have the perspective to serve others in a greater way, to make an impact in a greater way. And at the end of the day, I think that's how you get that last piece, that fulfillment piece, that courage to continue, where you have the enthusiasm and you have the fulfillment to continue to go from season to season. So I wanted to share that message with all of you today, something that just was on my mind coming off an amazing event, something that is so apparent to me, 23 years in this space, watching, you know, all of the trends and all of the brands and all of the people and all of the companies, you know, come, go, grow, fall, right, return around, and everywhere in between. It's something that has been a consistent thread. It's something that I know is true for every micro-entrepreneur, micro-enterprise, or someone willing to make the shift out there. So let's remember, whatever season you're in right now, success is never final. Appreciate it, honor it, value it. Failure is never fatal. Learn from it, grow from it. You're getting stronger because of it. But in the end, whatever season you're in, is the courage to continue, the that counts, and the courage to continue is what's going to give you the wisdom and the experience, the perspective, the mindset shifts you need, right, to continue to move on from every season to season in your life, and let the excitement grow, the enthusiasm grow, and the fulfillment along the way, the fulfillment along the journey continue to increase as we go out there and learn to get outside ourselves and take everything we got, our talents, our gifts, and everything we're given along the way in order to become a bigger impact for others, a service to others, an inspiration to others. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Here's one more view from the top. Beautiful day, sun is out. And I wish all of you, no matter what season you're in right now, that this message resonated. If there's someone that came to your mind or your heart, feel free to press share. Catch previous conversations, guys, on our podcast. We've had some good ones out there, Live by Design. And my sincere hope for all of you, no matter what season you're in right now, you continue to get the most out of it and have the courage to continue. Because I promise you, there'll be a future season, and one after that, and one after that. And that's this crazy ride we're all on called life, and that's what it's all about. Until the next time, guys, take care, everybody.